I'm going to be teaching you how to increase your credit score to go above 700 after a bankruptcy. Now this is going to apply to chapter 7, chapter 13, and I've actually made 2 other videos that are very similar to this one, but this is going to be the 2020 update backed by popular demand. I'll link the other videos up here and here or down in the description so you can go check out those as well. Also, I do want to state that this video is going to be very analytical. I'm going to get into the numbers of things, so if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that way you can go back and reference this video in the future or save it to your watch list. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video. Alright, so before we get completely started in this video, there's a few things that I want to say. Do not apply for any department store credit cards. That's a huge thing. You want to limit the amount of inquiries, which means if you can, do not go to those dealerships, or like I like to call them, stealerships, that run your credit 30,000 times and ultimately drop your score. This is going to apply towards any type of bankruptcy to increase your personal credit score, not your business credit score, but it's roughly the same concept. This is going to apply towards after repossessions of your car, any collections, any major delinquencies like foreclosures or short sales. And the last thing I'll say is if you had a discharge or bad relationship with any certain type of creditor, like Capital One, for example, you need to avoid them at all costs in this video. If you're going to follow this plan, it's very in-depth and you need to follow it to a T. So I think that's enough. I think I've said enough on it. Let's get started with step number 1. This is the point where you probably need to figure out what exactly is on your credit report. So you're going to go to annualcreditreport.com, link in the description down below. It's a completely free tool to download your 3 credit profiles. So you're going to want to download them onto your computer and save them. But what you're looking for is making sure that there's nothing negative reporting out actively on your credit report, because think about it, as we go into this plan of taking the time over the next year or 2 to increase your credit score, you're not going to want to have something negatively while you're actively putting out positive trade lines. Now, if you do have something negative reporting out on your credit report, like for example, when you file bankruptcy, you're supposed to get a discharge letter, and you do not want to start this process until after you get that discharge letter. It's very important. It's going to list out all the debts that have been forgiven or discharged, in other words. And you want to make sure that your credit reports, all 3 of them from the different credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, have discharged all of those debts. If they haven't, I will leave a link down in the description to a template letter that you can send out to the credit bureaus, as well as the credit bureau addresses. So you want to make sure you go through everything in detail and make sure that anything is reporting inaccurately, disputed, and taken care of before you start this process. Okay, so step number 1 is to apply for a credit card. Now I'm going to list 2 credit institutions that you can use that will almost guarantee you getting approved no matter your credit score. The first one is going to be Open Sky Credit. The second one is going to be Credit One, which is sort of like a knockoff to Capital One. The logo almost looks the same as well. However, what we're looking for is an active positive trading line out there, and I verified that they do all 3 report out to the 3 credit bureaus, which is TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Honestly, you won't be keeping these cards for that long of time because they do have annual fees. Now, I personally recommend you to go with creditone.com because they have a free pre-qualification that does not run an inquiry on your credit. It also can get you approved for an unsecured credit card. Unlike Open Sky, do your due diligence and ultimately just get approved for a credit card in general. Now, once you have this credit card, you're going to follow 2 simple rules. The first rule is you're not going to use it over 10% utilization rate. Now, what I mean by that is if you have a $300 credit limit on your credit card that you just got approved for, then you're only going to use up to $29. And then the second rule is you're going to pay in full that credit card before the statement cuts. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say before the statement cuts, I'm gonna leave a link to the video up here and down below. It doesn't mean you have to use up to 10% and charge exactly $29. It just means you need to use less than $29. And then you need to pay it off in full before the statement cuts. Now, on top of that, at the same exact time, you're gonna go out to a local credit union and apply for a secured credit loan. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna spend too much time on exactly what a secured loan is and how to get approved for it, but I will link a video up here and somewhere down in the description below. You should have, by the end of week 1, a credit card, either unsecured or secured, and you should have a secured loan. So you should have 2 active reporting positive trade lines going out to all 3 credit bureaus. And you're going to continue to use and pay off these cards and loans for the next 5 months. Now, when you hit the 5th month, you want to apply for your second credit card. And I'm going to list off some vendors or credit institutions that you should think about applying for. Capital One is a great one to start out with. I would highly recommend them because they have automatic credit line increases every 6 months. and that can help strengthen your score. Discover It is a great credit card. It's a middle-tiered credit card to get approved for. Barclays, great one to get approved for, that will almost guarantee you getting approved after you've had your first credit card and your secured loan for 5 months at least. Now, I would recommend you to start with Capital One. However, if for some reason you don't get approved for that, I would move on to Barclays and then use Discover last, because it's kind of a high-tiered, middle-tiered card, and I have seen people get declined for those, and again, we want to limit the amount of declines. Now, you want to get approved for these cards within the last week of the 5th month before the 6th month gets reported out. Now, this is where it gets a little bit technical with how you need to adjust your spending habits on your card. Your very first credit card, instead of using 10% of the balance, you want to simply leave a charge of around $1 to $10, doesn't matter which one, and you want to pay it off in full completely. Now, that second credit card that I just told you to get approved for, you want to start using that up to 30%, and then you want to leave a balance of around $1 to $10. So to recap, in the very first credit card, you were using less than 10%. So if you had a $300 balance, you were using less than $29. Now, once you get approved for your second credit card, you want to switch your spending habits, and you want to use $1 to $10 on your very first credit card, pay it off in full, just like we talked about before the statement cuts, and then your second credit card, your new credit card that you just got approved for, you want to use up to 30% of the balance. So for example, if you have a $1,000 limit, you want to use around $300 of it, $350 of it, and then you want to go ahead and pay it down so that you only have a $1 to $10 balance on it, and let that report out. So you'll be making a $290 payment and letting that report out. Okay, so to recap, you should have 2 credit cards right now using the spending habits we just talked about, and you should still be paying off that secured loan, and you should be right around that 6-month time frame right now, half a year time frame. And if you run your credit report again or check it on Credit Karma, you should see a drastic improvement in your score already, because you have 3 active trade lines reporting out. But we're not completely done yet. If you really want to maximize on your score, the third and final tip is going to be super technical, but it's really to take your score to the next level. So around the 11 to 12 month time frame, your very first credit card, if you got a secured credit card, should be ringing in that annual fee if they didn't already charge you up front. And honestly, a secured credit card is fantastic, but one with an annual fee is not something you're going to be keeping for the rest of your life. Because think about it, you don't want to pay $50 for the rest of your life. That's just not realistic. So it's okay to go ahead and close that one out. Just make sure that you get approved for the next credit card that I'm going to tell you about before closing out the secured card. Now, on the flip side of that, if you did follow my instruction, get approved for the unsecured credit card, then you want to go ahead and keep that one for as long as you're comfortable paying the annual fee. Some people say that closing out credit cards hurts you, and it's true, it does eliminate that credit history. However, if you're coming from a discharge and a bankruptcy, you probably don't have any credit history anyway, so it's not going to really hurt you that much. It's more of just a stepping stone to get approved for card 2 and card 3, which are higher tier unsecured credit cards. So around the 11 to 12 month time frame, you're going to want to apply for a third credit card, which will give you a total of 3 different credit cards. Unless you close that other one out, you'll have 2, and 1 secured line of credit. You can apply for either the Discover card. In fact, I would highly recommend you to apply for the Discover card, and I'll leave a description down in the link below for those as well. Now, to talk about spending habits, since you'll now have 3 credit cards and 1 secured loan, out of these 3 credit cards, you want to make sure that you follow the same exact spending habits that we talked about last step. What you want to do with your credit card usage, if you want to pay off in full 2 out of the 3 credit cards, or if you cancel the secured card, use 1 out of the 2 credit cards and pay that off in full, and leave a very small $1 to $10 balance reporting out on that other 1 credit card. And then on top of that, your secured loan should be paid in full since it was a 1 year. So you have 2 options right now. You can go back to the same exact credit union and you can apply for an unsecured loan for the exact same amount, say $1,000 unsecured loan, pay it back over the next year. Or you can apply for a $2,000 secured loan and give them $2,000, they'll give you $2,000 back, and repeat the entire process again. Really, guys, at this point, the entire system is done. It's more about just duplicating it and maximizing on it. So you want to limit your inquiries or your applications to new credit to every 6 months. Ultimately, it's not to tell you that you can keep applying for credit cards every 6 months. It's to tell you that now you have options to play with. Now you have credit, and you have reestablished your credit and showed the credit bureaus that you are dependable because you are paying off your balances in full and showing them that you can maintain a solid credit history even after a massive delinquency such as bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale, anything of that sort. So over the next 6 to 12 months, what you want to do is either apply for credit line increases or you want to apply for new credit institutions, one out of the 4 that I just gave you. Just be very wary not to apply for anything such as Citibank or American Express because they require top tier credit. Now, if you really want to take it to a full extent, here are my suggestions, my tips to really maximize on this strategy. The first tip is after the first year, you have your 2 or 3 credit cards and then you have your 1 secured loan. I would highly recommend you to apply for another secured loan or at least try to get an unsecured loan from that credit institution so that you can continue having that trade line report out the following year. If you're a super credit geek like me, you can also download the app myfico.com. I think they have a subscription of like $30 a month, so you can see exactly what your FICO score is on all 3 credit bureaus. And that's pretty much all there is to it. This is the updated 2020 version of how to go from a discharge, bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sale, anything, collections, to go to 700 plus in less than 1 year. Again, this is super technical. You might want to save this video and rewatch it a few times. However, if you check the description, I'm going to leave links to everything I talked about, as well as a list and step-by-step instructions on exactly how to do this. And without further ado, that is all I have for you today. So go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out some of my other videos on credit repair. And I wish you guys the best.